Mics.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's first discuss what is science. The knowledge obtained through experiment and observation is called science. We say it is a systematic enterprise that builds and organizes knowledge in the form of testable explanations and predictions about the universe. The earliest roots of science can be traced to ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia in around 3,500 BC to 3000 BC. So if we look at the science, we say it is the knowledge that we obtain through experiments and observation. Um, if you look at the word science is derived from a Latin word scientia, which means knowledge. It is commonly divided into three major groups. Scientific knowledge can be divided as formal science, natural science, or social science. Formal science, the study of logic or mathematics, etc. Natural sciences means chemistry, physics, etc. We also call them pure sciences. And the social sciences means where we study the behavior in society, just sociology, etc. We study it in the sciences. So in order to do some experiments, in order to do some observations, we need matter because we have to study something, we have to observe something. So what is matter? We say anything that occupies space and has a specific mass, it is called matter. All physical objects or examples of matter. The simplest way to observe matter is its physical state. Like if you have something, if you have some matter, either it is in the liquid state, it is either in the solid state or in the gaseous state or any other like plasma state, etc. So examples of matter include in our daily life, we see water, we see chair, white pen, book, building, air, etc. There are plenty of examples. We call them, they are matter. So let's discuss chemistry now. First, we will define it. Then we will go back in the history of chemistry a little bit, the Muslims' history, and then we will discuss its branches. Students, if you have any question, you can raise your hand. There is an option down there near your mic and camera. There is a hand raised. So you can raise your hand if you want to ask any question. But please ask your question at the end of the lecture. So chemistry, it is the branch of pure sciences in which we discuss matter, its composition, structure of matter, its properties, both physical and chemical, different laws that are applicable in it. Talha Aziz, just wait a minute. We say we discuss matter. We shortly ago we discussed what is matter. We say anything that occupies space and has mass, it is called matter. Its composition, what is this matter made of? Means what are the different components of the matter? The structure of matter, we will discuss the structure of matter, how they are, and its physical and chemical properties. Remember, there is a difference between the physical and chemical property. Physical property means all those properties which we can feel by our five senses. Either we can touch it, we can taste it, or we can smell it, etc. While the chemical properties means those properties where something is formed, where the chemistry is changed, where the composition is changed. While in physical properties, the composition will remain the same. And then we discuss the different laws that are applicable in it. The laws, for example, there is Newton law that is used in physics. Similarly, we study Boyle law, we discuss Henry law, etc. in chemistry in order to study the matter and its properties. Talha Aziz, you can ask your question, please. Talha Aziz, turn on your mic. Please again.
I don't have any question.
Okay, okay. So let's discuss Muslim periods now. The Muslim period is also known as medieval age, and it ranges from 600 AD to 1600 AD. When we look at the Muslim scientists, they had three main purposes. They had their scientific work or behind their research in chemistry. Number one was to prolong the life. For example, people were dying because of the many diseases, so they were trying to prolong life. They were trying to invent some new medicines, some new methods, some new cure for the diseases in order to enhance the lives. Number one. Number two, to change base metals into gold. You know, human nature, people want to get rich, and they want to get rich early as possible. So at that time, Muslim scientists were also trying to convert the cheaper element, the base metals, into gold in order to earn more money. To find physical evidence to support religious and philosophical beliefs, we have different philosophical beliefs uh, and different religious beliefs. For example, in Hadith, we are said to eat. Whenever you eat, you should sit properly and do not eat anything while you are standing. So scientists were trying why Islam is saying you should sit before eating anything or before drinking anything. So what are the reasons? So they were finding out for all the religious or philosophical beliefs, they were finding some scientific support for that purpose. So these were the three main purposes of Muslim scientists. And when we look at the achievements of Muslim scientists, we say Muslim scientists discovered many elements, like arsenic, antimony, and bismuth are few of them. They discovered many new methods, like filtration, fermentation, and distillation, etc. New chemicals produced were sulfuric acids, nitric acid, and white lead, etc. They were discovered by mostly Jabir bin Hayyan. So he's also known as father of chemistry or father of uh, classical chemistry, because currently we say Anton de Lavoisier is the father of modern chemistry. So Jabir bin Hayyan established the first lab in chemistry. He invented many methods like distillation, sublimation, filtration, extraction of metals we discussed earlier, and he also made some chemicals like sulfuric acid, nitric acid, invalid, etc. When we look at other scientists like Muhammad ibn Zakaria al-Razi, we say he was a physician, a chemist, a philosopher. He wrote many books, some says 6 books, with the famous one named as Al-Israr. He divided the chemical compound into 4 different types, and he prepared fermentation. He used fermentation method to prepare alcohols. The great Muslim scientist was Al-Biruni, who uh, born in 973 and died at 1048 AD. He made his contribution in physics, metaphysics, astronomy, geography, and history. In chemistry, he gave many new chemical procedures and chemical reactions. He determined densities of different substances. Yes, Shahbaz, please ask your question.
No, sir. Thank you. It's clear.
Okay. Then there is Ibn Sina. His life range 80 to 1037. Turn off your mic, please. Shahbaz, turn off your mic. Thank you. Okay. So he's known as Aristotle of the Muslim world. We're talking about Ibn Sina. He was the first person who rejected the idea that base metals can be converted into gold. He was very famous in medicine, astronomy, medicinal chemistry, and philosophy. These books were taught in Europe for many centuries, like up to, someone says, up to 16th century. So that was a brief description about the Muslim scientists and their contribution in the science. So let's discuss branches of chemistry, because after Muslim scientists, we what a lot did a lot of contribution in the science, and I don't see any further contribution by us in the field of chemistry after 16th century. So when we discuss branches of chemistry, there are so many branches. Why we need branches of chemistry? It is because the field of chemistry is very wide. It is very diverse. And a single person cannot cover all of the areas of chemistry. And he cannot read or study or understand or teach all of the areas. So we need to divide the chemistry in different branches in order to understand it well, in order to work on it, and make others understand it, and make it fruitful for us and for others. So some of the branches of chemistry are: number one, physical chemistry, organic chemistry, inorganic chemistry, analytical chemistry, industrial, nuclear, biochemistry, and inorganic chemistry. We will discuss them briefly. Like the first one is physical chemistry. We say it is the branch which is concerned with interaction and transformation of materials. Physical chemistry is the study of how matter behaves on a molecular and atomic level and how chemical reactions occur. Like there are two different substances, they are coming together and they are making a chemical reaction. What are the substances that are coming together? How the reaction is taking place? And what is the product that is coming out? Based on their analysis, physical chemists may develop new theories such as how complex structures are formed. So all these areas are discussed in physical chemistry. In short, we say it's just the interaction and transformation of materials. Tawab, you can ask your question, please. Okay. Organic chemistry. It is a study of compounds of carbon and hydrogen. We also call them hydrocarbon. Collectively, the compounds of carbon and hydrogen are called hydrocarbon. Hydro stands for hydrogen and carbon stands for carbon. So all the compounds of carbon and hydrogen means we're talking about hydrocarbons. All of the hydrocarbons are organic. So we say they are studied in the organic chemistry. Either they are hydrocarbon or derived from hydrocarbon. We call them derivatives. So hydrocarbon studied in the organic chemistry. Like we have methane, the chemical formula is written there, CH4. So it is a hydrocarbon, hence organic in nature. Similarly, we have chloromethane. It is a derivative because it is not a hydrocarbon. It contains carbon, hydrogen, along with them we have chlorine there. So we say one of the hydrogen of methane is replaced by chlorine. We do not call it hydrocarbon anymore because of the presence of chlorine, but we can call it a derivative because it is derived out of methane. So we say chloromethane is a derivative of hydrocarbon from methane. So we will also discuss it in organic chemistry. In short, we say the study of hydrocarbons and their derivatives is called organic chemistry. So there are 118 elements in total discovered yet. So all of the elements, some have many compounds, some have a lot of compounds. Elements, all of the element, the study of all compounds of all of the elements except hydrocarbon and their derivatives. We call it inorganic, while hydrocarbons and their derivatives are organic in nature. So in organic chemistry, we say all elements except hydrocarbon and their derivatives and their compounds will be discussed in the inorganic chemistry. It means organic compounds, all other compounds except organic compounds, all other compounds are studied there in inorganic chemistry. Examples of inorganic compounds are carbon dioxide, though it contains carbon but it is not a hydrocarbon, neither it is a derivative of hydrocarbon. Similarly, water contains hydrogen but it is not a hydrocarbon. So we say carbon dioxide and water, they are not organic, rather they are inorganic in nature. We discuss it in the inorganic chemistry. So compounds, the study of compounds that are inorganic, so it is called inorganic chemistry. Chemistry is substances, or the analysis is quantitative with amount. By qualitative analysis, we mean we discuss carbon dioxide. By chemical formula, so CO2 it is made up of two elements, carbon and oxygen. By quality, we can say it is made up of analysis. How many atoms of carbon are there in carbon dioxide, and how many atoms of oxygen are there in carbon dioxide? We call it the quantitative analysis. Quantitative analysis means how much is present, means how many carbon atoms or how many oxygen atoms are present there in it. There are two different ways to analyze qualitatively and quantitatively. Branch of chemistry is industrial chemistry. And chemical processes that are used for the preparation of different industrial products. For example, for formation of glass, fertilizers, etc. Different factories in fact material, and this raw material has certain chemical composition, chemical name. So we discussed in the industrial chemistry what is the different product that is industrial product like cement, like glass. Similarly, what chemistry, if you want to take the so example industrial process are surveys process. It is a process that is used in the industry on the industrial scale for the production of soda. So like washing soda that is used in the washing that is prepared through survey process in the industries. Similarly, you might have heard about the ammonia, NH3. So ammonia is used through Haber's process in the industry on larger scale. So that is called the industrial chemistry. Then what is biochemistry? We say biochemistry is also called chemistry of life. Biochemists use physical and chemical processes to explain biology at molecular level. In biochemistry, simply you are talking about the living things, but at lower level, molecular or at atomic level, like you're talking about the proteins, like you're talking about the carbohydrates and lipids that are found in your bodies. Similarly, in other organisms' bodies, like in plants, we are talking about plants are also living organisms. So when in plants, when we talk about the cellulose, which makes its cell wall, we're not talking about cell wall in chemistry, but we do talk about the cellulose that is making the cell wall. Similarly, we are not talking about starch. We're not talking about the food that's present in the plant. We do talk about the starch. We do talk about the glycogen in the living organism, in the animals, that is a stored food. So at molecular level means it is the study of compounds in the living organisms. The next branch of chemistry is nuclear chemistry. Nuclear chemistry is all about what happens in the nucleus of an atom. In nuclear chemistry, neutrons bombarded on other atoms and force them to split apart. Fission is when one atom split into two new atoms. You know, in nuclear chemistry, we talk about the nucleus. So in nucleus, two different type of processes takes place. Number one, fission. Number two, fusion. Fission means if you have a bigger nucleus, it splits into two, three, four, or many smaller nuclei. Fusion means when you have smaller nuclei, they combine together and they give you a bigger nucleus. That is called the fusion. So two types of processes are possible in nuclear chemistry or inside the nucleus or when we study the nucleus. Either the nucleus can break into smaller portion or smaller component of different nuclei come closer. They make us one bigger nucleus. So in the first case, we call it fission. In the second case, we call it fusion. That is the nuclear chemistry. When we talk about the environmental chemistry, it is the study of chemical and biochemical phenomena that places. It is a sub-branch of chemistry in which study of atmosphere, water, and living organism is done in relation to their effect on human beings. One thing we should keep in mind, we are studying matter in chemistry. We are studying different types of matter and their impact on human organism and human beings, on living organisms, and on our surroundings. So in environmental chemistry, we will study different portion of environment and their impact on the human being, living organisms. When we look at our environment, we can divide our environment to four different components. Environment, we say anything that surrounds me is my environment. So in our environment, we have air. In our environment, we have water bodies like oceans. In our environment, we have living organisms, plants and animals. And in our environment, so there are four different. We are studying chemistry. So let's see, we have the water cycle. So if you are studying the water cycle, it is a part of environmental chemistry. You can see from the oceans. From the ocean, we have evaporation process takes place, and these vapors goes up higher into the clouds where they are condensed, and they come back in the form of snow or in the form of rain. They come back to the earth. Similarly, we have one more process right here where you can see the different waste that is coming out of the factories. It is going up because gases are lighter and they goes up. So these gases go up to the stratosphere, and they combine with the ozone. They destroy the ozone layer, and some of these waste particle, they become just like we have volatile organic components or sulfates or black carbon, etc. This stays in the lower layer, the first layer that we call troposphere, and these precipitate back, these come back with the rainwater, and they affect our environment. Thank you so much, students. If you have any question, you can raise your hand.